Welcome to the Change Revolution podcast with your host, Phil Cooke.
I'm coming from the set of Thou Shalt Laugh, the comedy show. It's Thou Shalt Laugh 2, by the way, the comedy show that you can find a lot more about at thoushalltlaugh.com. In a previous episode, we talked about the show and what we're doing for it, and it's really a sequel to Thou Shalt Laugh from last year. We're doing Thou Shalt Laugh 2. It'll be a Warner Brothers project, and we're real excited about making it happen. We're rehearsing, and I wanted to pull aside Richard Brown, our lighting director, who really is the first guy that ever gave me a job in television. I have to tell you that. First guy that ever, I was on Richard's lighting crew pretty early in the 70s. We won't go into a lot of detail about that, but we've been working together ever since. And you're doing the lighting for Thou Shalt Laugh. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing.
Well, right now what we've done is we've taken the building and tried to recreate into this space what would be a syndicated television show to try to give it a primetime look. And one of the things I like about lighting is that you come in, you set something up, and then you tear it down and nobody ever knows you were there.
That's good, good. How much does lighting enhance the experience for somebody in the audience?
Well, I think what it does is it sets the mood. I think that by doing certain lighting that you affect how they feel. When somebody's sitting here, they should feel like they're a part of the show.
Okay.
And so we want to incorporate them. We want to be able to make them feel like they're part of the presentation. Not that they're just sitting someplace and looking at it. We want them to feel like they're part of it.
Now, you've been involved in a lot of different projects for TV. Tell me some of the things you've done.
I've done, I used to do all the boxing for HBO. I did sitcoms for 22 years. I did Ellen DeGeneres' sitcom, Caroline the City, Boy Meets World, Saved by the Bell.
And you've done a lot of documentaries and a lot of projects, too.
I've done that. I've lit 3 presidents, and I've lit part of the Olympics, part of the Democratic Convention.
And you're also now doing architectural lighting as well. Tell me about that.
So what I've been doing now is trying to take what I've learned in Hollywood and apply it to churches and other buildings. We have 2 projects we're proposing in Dubai right now that would take what we would do on a stage and effectively do it to the outside of buildings.
Like a high-rise hotel.
Right.
Okay, so I have asked Richard to get involved in some of the ministry projects that we do with certain clients around the country, churches and ministry things, because lighting, I believe, has a huge impact on the worship experience. So when you go into a church, I mean, first of all, tell me, churches blow off lighting. They don't. Most churches don't think anything about it. Why is that wrong? Why is lighting important in a worship setting?
Well, first of all, when I walk into a church, the one thing I want to do is I want to listen to how the people use the service. What are they doing at church? Here again, as I said a while ago, what we're trying to do here is make people feel involved. In churches nowadays, people want to be involved in the church. We have praise and worship singers. We don't have just a choir anymore singing and a choir leader. Now everyone is participating. So I take that into consideration, and we use, whether we want to or not, we compete with MTV, VH1, Elton John, everyone else. So why should we as Christians be any different?
Okay, so but is it, it's more than shallow entertainment, though.
Absolutely.
It's pulling them into a real experience, right?
Absolutely, and again, what we're trying to do is set an environment.
Okay.
And so when I walk into a church, the first things I do is I ask, how do you use the services? The other thing is, where do you want to go? And then I see what kind of equipment they have. And a lot of times I just try to enhance what they have rather than trying to sell them something. That's not why I'm there. The other thing is, a lot of times we go into churches and I look around the church and I don't want it to be a television studio. So what I try to do is keep the environment of the church and work with the people in the church.
Kind of keep the integrity of the environment that's there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if I was a pastor or a media leader at a church out there watching this, what are 2 or 3 things I need to think about to get my lighting kind of to the next level or to make it a more integral part of the service?
Well, one thing that I really stress is that we have a lighting look for praise and worship, and then we have a lighting look that we would use for teaching. And those 2 are two different lighting systems.
2 moods.
2 different moods, and but yet the other thing that we're really stressing right now is low voltage and energy efficient lighting. Which
Okay, now hold it. Before we get there, because that's a good one. Energy sustainability thing is important. But 2 moods, one for worship, one for teaching.
Right.
So why? In other words, are you looking for a more emotional mood for worship, a more lit mood so people can take notes during teaching? What's the difference?
Well, two things. We want to set a mood. When they come in, we want them to feel like they're part of the service. When they're being, no one wants to be talked at. So we want them to feel like they're part of the teaching. They want to be able to read. The other thing that's important is for a pastor or a teacher to look and see, am I ahead of them? To be able to see their faces and their eyes. So we want this interaction between the two.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, now let's talk about low voltage. That's a new thing you're teaching about out there a lot.
Right.
Pushing. What's the big deal with low voltage?
Well, for one thing,
It's new technology, right?
Very new technology. We're able to go in and do a church where it might have taken 400 amps, 500 amps. We can now do it for 40 to 50 amps. So it not only affects the amount of electricity you have to bring into the room, but it also affects the air conditioning because the lights are far more efficient. They don't produce the heat. So that means that your everyday cost. We did a studio and we went from 960 amps to less than 80 amps. And the air conditioning savings was over $2,000 a month.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So
I'm seeing more and more churches that understand it. There used to be a backlash because churches would feel like, okay, I'm becoming too Hollywood, I'm becoming too entertainment, but they realize now it really enhances the person's experience that's there. And I think the best lighting is subtle. You don't really notice it so much. It doesn't stand out. How do you feel about that?
Well, I use the analogy that if you look at a church, it's like a big tree. It's this bare tree. And then if you put the pews and you put the backing and whatever you put in there, that becomes the leaves on the tree. But the flower is the preacher or the teacher. And we want him to be seen. And that means that you want him to be in the very best light. And you want him to build this environment where he's believable. And if he's in a cocoon of darkness, then he becomes far less believable.
That's good. That's good. Lighting works. Lighting matters. Lighting is important. Whatever venue you're in, if it's an entertainment venue, if it's in a religious venue, a church venue, lighting matters. Thank you, Richard Brown.
My pleasure.
Now get back to work.
I'm going.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Join us for more of this conversation at Phil's Change Revolution blog at philcooke.com. That's PHILCOOKE.com. And keep checking this podcast for more up-to-date dispatches from the front lines of media, faith, and culture.